Welcome to the LSL Podcast. I'm Derek McKenna and I'm joined as always by Andy McNulty. Andy, how are you? How was the weekend?
Yeah, all good, Derek. Yeah, thanks very much. It was quiet enough now, obviously, with the weather, but yeah, happy enough.
Did you just have a game over the weekend?
We had on Friday night,
Right, yeah.
Talca Rovers away in the Metro.
Actually, yeah. You can give us a little update on that in a moment when we talk about the big games in the weekend. But on tonight's podcast, episode number 11, we'll have the usual roundup of the big games from the past weekend, and we'll also have a preview of this coming weekend's big games. We also have an interview with St. Pat's CY Secretary Dave Nolan about big developments at the Ringsend Club. And as well as that, we have the Charlie Cattle Cup semi-final draw, the FAI Junior Cup draw, and we'll be discussing some issues raised by listeners on Twitter during the week. So a lot to cover, Andy. But we will kick off by jumping into the big games that happened this past weekend. Perhaps even give us a quick update on how your own game went on Friday.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Friday night against Talca Rovers, they're a 1A side. They're currently sitting second, and to be honest with you, they probably consider themselves unlucky not to take something, at least go to extra time. We had a really, really young side out that night. We had a couple of debutants, and yeah, it was a tough game for us. Now we kind of controlled it near the end because obviously they went down to 10 men. It was a last man challenge, professional foul, as they used to be known. One of our lads was through on goal, and the defender just kind of cut across him, and unfortunately ref had no option but to send him off. So it gave us a bit of a breather with 20 minutes to go. I think we only had two subs on the night. It was a tough game, but what I would say is that Tolka side is a very, very good, well-oiled, well-drilled team. I can see them, if they can stick the team together and maybe add one or two in certain positions, they'll be definitely a team challenging um, for another promotion next year. I know they're sitting second and they should go up. That's a tight enough league down there with Collinstown and Willow Park, but they should go up based on what I seen on Friday night anyway.
Yeah, they seem to have the makings of a good young side there, as far as I can recall. The manager who's there, and his name just escapes me at the moment, but he's a former. I think it's Elliot Morgan actually. I think his name is, and he used to be with St. Kevin's. And a lot of players he worked with at St. Kevin's years ago, came across with him, so he's worked. Um, with a lot of the players at schoolboy level, and then he's took a lot of them through to to Tolka Rovers. So good win there for yourselves. If we look at some of the other big games, we highlighted a few on last week's podcast to look forward to. One of the ones we highlighted was St. Kevin's against Cardiff. And we mentioned that because we had said St. Kevin's were had 5 games in hand over Cabarrett United, and they needed to win all those to draw level at the top of the Senior 1B. Well, I've been raving about Cardiff for weeks. I'm sure you'll remember, Andy, that they've had some really kind of unfortunate losses and very close results when they played us, even though there was one game we beat them 5-0, but they were brilliant in that game. Another game where we drew with them recently, and they actually went out and beat St. Kevin's last Friday night, 4-1, which was a bit of a shock result. Cardiff at the very end of the table, struggling in a kind of a relegation battle. St. Kevin's riding the crest of a wave, kind of playing some really good football lately, and expected to win that game. So, big setback for St. Kevin's. They would have been hoping to win that one. But great result for Cardiff as they battle against the relegation there. And if there's some cracking goals in that game, I'll encourage anybody to go watch the video. It's available on St. Kevin's Twitter feed and their Facebook as well, I believe. Some really brilliant goals in that game. Well worth a watch. And the other kind of big game in that division was our own Cabarrett United against Larkview. And we won that game 2-1 on the night. Again, you can see the video of that game. A couple of cracking goals and that free kick from Adam Fox on our side. Larkview equalised with a great headed goal. It's well worth watching. And then an Aaron Humphreys goal for us won the game, I think, with about 20 minutes to go. So those videos are available online. If we look towards Sunday, Andy, there was another one we flagged in the Cattle Cup quarter final.
Yeah, it was sort of Liffey's have been used to going out to Leicester. I think they played in the FAI intermediate in the round before. and brought them to a replay, but it wasn't to be for them in the Cal Cup quarters. This time they were comprehensively beaten with by 5 goals to 1 there. Owen Fowler, Josh Scully, Mick Kelly with the goals, and Stephen Chambers, and I mentioned Josh Scully there already. So look, it's a big win for Leicester. They're on really good form at the moment. So, and the opposite end of the spectrum, Liffey's are on a downward spiral at the moment. So they need to just kind of pick up a couple of results for themselves now, get back to
Definitely.
league action, and really focus on trying to stay in the division.
Who got the Liffey's goal there? Um,
I did skip over that deliberately, but I'm going to say Nika Kalendarishvili. So
Yeah,
I'll leave it at
that's a
that
good
one.
effort. That's a good effort there. I know it's just skipping over that. That's why I had to ask. Other big games that we flagged was Bangor GG against Eden Derry, and the reason we flagged that was because obviously Bangor up the top end of the table, and I believe they drew their previous game, so they kind of needed a good result in this game to keep up the pressure on Malahide, but it ended in a 2-2 draw. Goals for, I think they're Eden Derry goals. Are they Andy Jack Foran and
Yeah, both Eden
Freddie
Derry.
Gallen?
Yeah,
We didn't see who the Bangor goal scorers were, but a 2-2 draw there. So it does kind of Bangor a couple of kind of draws, but and we'll touch on it towards the end of the show when we preview the games. They have a big game coming up this weekend at the top of the table, which they'll obviously be hoping to get a good result in. What was the other one in the senior one, which we flagged? There was two actually big games in the senior one. If you want to talk about those, Andy.
yeah. I believe Sacred Heart Fairhouse Clover versus Home Farm. That was first and third going into that game. McEntee for Home Farm opened the scoring before Darren Forsyth levelled it up, which from all accounts online there, it seemed to be a fairly even affair. I believe the weather played its conditions really badly. So obviously, it's a pity because it's such an important game for both teams. But look, a fair result probably by the sounds of it, 1-1 draw.
Yeah, and neither side kind of opening up a gap as such on the other teams with that draw. So I think kind of a result that other teams around them would have been happy to see. And kind of speaking of other teams around them, the other game that we flagged was Lucan against Kilnamanagh, second against fourth. And Kilnamanagh coming off the back of that defeat in the FAI Intermediate Cup against Leicester Donecarney last week. Another loss and the 2-1 to Lucan in this game, which pushes. Is that Lucan gone top or?
Yeah, that's them top of the division now. I think Kilnamanagh still have a couple of games in hand, and are still within touching distance. But as I mentioned, or as we mentioned on previous episodes, we just Kilnamanagh just need to be careful that they need to pick up the form again, before the other teams start racing away.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure they'll be disappointed with the blip over the last couple of weeks, 2 losses in a row after they've been putting such a good run together up until that point. But with the amount of talent in that team, and we've discussed this on previous shows, you would expect them to be up and thereabout going in the promotion places this season. The final game that we kind of flagged to look out for. Well, there was a few others, but they were called off because of the weather, obviously. But the other one was Airfield against Ardmore Rovers in the Senior 1B, and Airfield putting a good win in there, 3-1 with goals from Ger Carroll, Dylan Bourne and Al Connor. That was a fourth versus fifth game, but it puts Airfield in a kind of a good position now. I think I was mentioning to you earlier on, Andy, that I think there's 4 teams going up from the Senior 1 this year because there's a space up in Senior 1A because of Inchicore pulling out last year. So I think 4 go up this year. So there's a kind of a big battle going on there when you look at the league table for all of those kind of sitting from second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. All have chances of even probably goes further down than that, have chances of going up and getting promoted this year. So it's well worth
Yeah, it
keeping
makes
an
for
eye on that division.
interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I know I've mentioned it a number of times, but when it gets to this stage of the season, when we've got next month, we're going to have midweek games and stuff like that. That those teams, you'll see someone that goes on a bit of a run will all of a sudden be in the hunt, and then someone will drop out of it. So it'd be interesting to see. Now I'll keep an eye on that. over the coming weeks.
Definitely. Right, so that's the roundup of the weekend's games. Look, we say this every week. I'm sure there was loads of games that were brilliant games that we've missed out on there in that roundup. So if you do want us to kind of feature your game in our little roundup each week, send us on a little message on Twitter or so. Give us the goal scorers, and we'll definitely give it a shout out. A little earlier, Andy, myself and yourself spoke to Dave Nolan, who's the secretary of St. Patrick's CY down in Ringsend. So let's have a listen to that interview now, and then we'll come back with some other content straight after that. Dave Nolan, secretary of St. Pat's CY FC. Welcome to the LSL podcast.
Lads, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. Delighted to be here.
Pleasure to have you on, Dave. So, Dave, you've been involved with Pat CY for a long time now, as long as I can remember anyway. But how long exactly have you been with the club, and how did you firstly get involved?
Well, I've been with the club since 2002, so 18 years this year. And it was kind of a chance meeting, really. I'm not. I'm from the north side of the city, actually, and I was at the time, from around 2000 to 2003, I was doing a bit of part-time bar work for a friend of mine. And one of the pubs that they had a lease on at the time was the Georgetown House. It was called the Sea Point House at the time. And just through working in there, actually met the lady is now my wife from working there. And I was in there one Sunday morning working. I used to work a Saturday and Sunday night in the pub, and I was asked to do a day shift one weekend. And the lads from the CY committee, I didn't know much about St. Pat's CY at the time. My football and sort of knowledge at that stage would have been, my passion for the international team for starters. I went to a lot of the League of Ireland games around that time. A couple of my friends were playing League of Ireland football, and I'd been briefly involved with Sheriff Schoolboys just because my younger brothers had played for them. And so I didn't know a whole lot about the intermediate football or junior football in general. And I met the two lads, two of the lads from the committee, Patrick Healy, Patrick as he's known, and Patrick O'Keefe, were in having a pint, and just got chatting to them. And they said, "Did you be a player yourself?" I said, "Not really." So I was never really much of a player myself, but I said, "I have a brother who, who's a decent player, might bring him down." And it kind of went from there. Myself and the younger brother went to pre-season that year, and it basically went on from there. We joined the club and haven't really looked back, to be honest with you. I've been there ever since. Tom, who was playing himself, was retired from playing only about 3 years ago, and he's still involved now. We're 35s, but yeah, so that's how it came about, and I've been sort of at it ever since. And it was mostly committee work that I've been doing. I played on the Saturday side when they were in the lower divisions, but that would have been my level. But as the Saturday side went up through the divisions, I kind of fell away from playing, but I was always kind of more of a committee type person, and I got involved with helping Johnny Healy out. He was our secretary for 20 years, and sort of shadowed Johnny for a long time, and took over then from him in 2015 when he decided to step back from secretarial duties. So yeah, a long time.
A long time. So there's been, if we look kind of more recently, there's a lot of exciting things going on around the club.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about that. I've seen a bit online, obviously, around the new clubhouse, and there's a new women's team, and I'm sure there's other stuff going on. So talk to us a little bit about what's happening at the moment.
So we got some funding. We got fairly significant funding. It was granted in 2017 for a new clubhouse. It comes from something that's called the Community Gains Fund, and it's the company Covanta who built the incinerator Ringsend, which in Pilbeck, which had a lot of opposition over the years, and they developed this fund, I suppose, to help out local sports clubs and community groups, and it was a way of appeasing the local community to some degree. And we had made an approach initially on our own for funding to build a clubhouse, because it's something that we, for as long as I've been involved in the club, it's always been a bugbear that we didn't have one, because the club had originally been part of the CYNS, which is in the middle of Ringsend. The building's just across from the library there in Ringsend. But when they broke away from CYNS back in the early 80s, I think it was, they didn't have a clubhouse of their own. And it was only to the redevelopment of Irish Stadium back in 2004 that we had the facilities that we have use of at the moment. But it was always something that we kind of wanted, was to have our own, our own building, our own facility that we could we'd have more control over. And so we made an application a few years ago. That particular application was rejected, but they came back and they suggested that we put through a joint application with Crusaders Athletic Club, who are based in Irishtown Stadium. So the two of us got together, two clubs, and we submitted an application. Now, Derek Bowden, our chairman, Patrick Healy, our treasurer, and Peter Dowling, one of our other committee guys, they were the three that did all the work. And along with Crusaders, and we got funded then. The funding was for 1.6 million to build this new sort of it's an extension to Irishtown Stadium, but it will be our own building. And the vast majority of that funding was kind of pointed towards the football side of it. So we've the lower ground of the building, which is fully fitted out. Will be fully fitted out with 4 dressing rooms, referee's dressing room, a committee room, a physio room. All the things you would need to run a club out of it. And then the upper level will belong to that's Crusaders area, and that's just a large cavity that will have an indoor run of tracks as far as I know. That's the plan for that. So we're looking at getting delivery of the keys in mid-May, and we'll have it ready to go for the start of the new season. Excellent. So it's a big deal for us.
Yeah, I've seen some of the plans online. Obviously, what you've put out yourselves, and it looks really impressive. Just was it difficult to work with that other kind of athletic club, and then to kind of put in a joint application? Because I've seen other clubs doing that recently, putting in joint applications with other clubs to get community facilities. That's question number one. And then just around getting kind of planning permission on Irishtown Stadium, was that another process in itself from Dublin City Council, or what way did that work?
Well, the council were very much, behind us all the way. When ourselves and Crusaders came together and approached the council, I mean, they're going to benefit from it in the sense that the building will make it available for them to use as well. When they have big events on, for example, Irishtown Stadium is going to be a base now for all the stewards and stuff for the Euro 2020 games in Dublin. And if the building is ready to go, they might need to use it for people going inside for a cup of tea or whatever they might want to use it for. So they were behind the project from the outset.
Brilliant.
And we have a lease on the ground itself. On the land that's being used, like a 25-year lease, or I think it is. And so they were fine. And they've been backing us really up to the hilt, really all the way. So it wasn't as difficult as it might sound. With the planning permission, I think was straightforward enough. There wasn't any major objections that I'm aware of. And the only thing that delayed it was there's a kind of a conservation team that goes on around that area with geese landing. The geese land on the stadium pitch actually all the time during the season, during the geese season. And there had to be a sort of an environmental study done to make sure there was no major impact on their flight path and stuff like that. But other than that, it was fairly straightforward. And once the funding was allocated, we went to an architect, got plans drawn up, and like I say, 2017, the end of 2017, so we got the funding kind of confirmed, and we started the build. I think it was around October, November time. So it's been a fairly quick build since then. So
I think I asked you this question. I think I asked you the question, Dave, on Twitter a few months ago. Yeah. I think I recall this anyway. I asked you about the actual pitch in Irishtown Stadium, because I assumed with the building of the new clubhouse that you'll be actually using the pitch going forward. But I think you said to me that you're going to continue to use the Astro and the pitch. I know the pitch is available to you guys, but it's not something you use quite regularly, is it?
We don't, but we will be. Our latest team are going to play on the pitch, the grass pitch, so we'll be over 35s, who we've amalgamated with. And that's Irishtown FC. So it needs a bit of work. So the Dublin City Council are going to put some work into the pitch. It's been a problematic pitch really from day one. The original stadium, before they redeveloped it back in 2004, was built on reclaimed land, and I think it was built in the 50s. As far as I know, there was a plan for it to be a national stadium, because it had a concrete terrace going around the perimeter of it. But it was sinking. The old pitch was sinking, and the land was quite unstable. And when it was redeveloped, they built a sand-based pitch, which turned out to be problematic because it's just constantly dry all the time. It doesn't hold water. So it was always a very difficult surface to use and to play on. And we did play on it for the first. I mean, when they were redeveloping Irishtown Stadium, that's what gave us the I suppose, to go ahead really back in the early 90s to sort of chase intermediate football. The club was a junior club for the previous 70 odd years, had won everything you could win in junior football, and the plan was to get into intermediate football, but we wouldn't have had the facilities to do that until the stadium itself was actually redeveloped. And when it was redeveloped, we did play on the grass pitch for the first few years, up until around 2009-10 when they built the Astro then, the original Astro. So I know it was resurfaced there about 2 years ago, and we moved on to that, and primarily because it has floodlights, and you can do Friday night football. It's more favourable, I think, for a lot of the players. It gives them their weekends, and it's just been something that we've done ever since. But we would like to maybe in the long term look at possibly moving back in there. We don't know. It's not something that we've discussed, but it certainly would be more. It would make more sense given the clubhouse is pretty much right behind the pitch, So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Dave, just a quick one. Obviously, a lot going on with the club at the moment, and it's great to see. And do you find that there's a lot of support from the locals around the area? Obviously it's a big step in the right direction in my eyes for the club, and it's great. You'll hopefully be able to attract players and stuff like that with new facilities. And as you say, playing on Friday nights is a big attraction for players. But from a local community point of view, do you see the support there from people coming out to watch, or even giving a dig out with behind the scenes stuff?
Well, yeah, and especially in more recent times, since we've announced the implementation of a ladies team and getting together with the 35s, I think we've garnered more sort of local support, because the support of the football in Ringsend is it's a bit fractured at times. There's a lot of different clubs, and people have the clubs that they support, and there's a lot of kind of rivalry that goes on within the area. But definitely, the clubhouse and the social media activities we've been doing around it to promote it, we've definitely seen, a lot of goodwill towards what the club is doing. And we want to immerse ourselves probably a bit more in the community than maybe we had been previously. And yeah, we, as you said yourself, especially when we were in the senior division. Unfortunately, we're not at the moment, but when we were in the top division up to last season, we get good crowds down there. People come down and support the local lads. And we've always mostly been a club that would have mostly local players. That's something that we are sort of changing a little bit now. We are seeing more players come from outside. But it's the community is right behind us, and it's been great. It really has.
Just from a sort of a development, like a going forward, a future plan, is St. Pat's CY, is it going to expand even further? Because obviously big plans in facilities wise, and you're taking on a women's team and stuff like that. Have you got any other plans that you might be able to let us in on, or any non-top secret plans that you might have?
Well, we would be going down the schoolboy route, because we don't want to, there's no point with Cambridge are already there in the area, but we do have a very strong relationship with Cambridge. Cambridge is a schoolgirl club in the area. So I suppose possibly, to bridge the gap between players coming from, schoolboy football to senior football, possibly in under-19s might be something that we look at in the future. And again, we could never have thought of doing these things until we had the facility that we will have, because Irishtown Stadium itself is at capacity. There isn't enough room in terms of dressing room facilities for any more clubs or any additional teams. So it's not something that we have plans for next season, but certainly as things improve over the next couple of years, and especially if Cambridge, because they've got a lot of young sides at the moment that are coming through, and our manager, our first year manager, David Cassidy, he's heavily his father and he himself is heavily involved in Cambridge, and there's some good good lads coming through, and even schoolgirls coming through that we would like to bring it into our club over the next few years. So yeah, we want to grow with them rather than trying to do our own thing at schoolboy level. But yeah, our plan really, Andy, is to get back into the top levels. Probably won't happen this season. We've probably left ourselves a little bit too much work to do. But to get back up there and be that constant, team that we were for 8 years in the senior division, and attract the best players from around the local area and beyond. So that is the plan, to get back into the top level into the football.
That's good to hear. That's great to hear.
Dave, I think you might have seen today. We on Twitter we were talking about the importance of having a good committee in place at a football club, and it always has struck me that there is a really good committee in place down in Patsy. I know Andy has mentioned when you go down there to watch a game, there always seems to be a lot of people around, familiar faces as such. What are some of the kind of the most important things about having a good, strong committee in place, and then some of the challenges that you face at times as well?
Well, I'm sure Derek, you're now involved with Kilbark, so I'm sure you know yourself, and certainly Andy will, that it's a certain type of person, is needed to do committee work. It's not for everyone, and we'd be looking at players that we're right now that have been with us for years, and you can almost pick them out straight away, the ones that would be potentially future committee members, and the ones that won't. So, but yeah, we've got 10 on our LSL Senior League committee. We're going to grow now we've got 3 new committee members for the ladies, and then excuse me, take some water here for a sec. And we've got the committee that's already in place for the over 35. So we've actually grown from 10 to 18 committee members, which is a lot. We've had to do a bit of a sort of put a bit of a structure in place, and put people in various positions where they can do, where their strength is and what they're good at. So, but yeah, it is very important. We've, like I say, we've 10 guys that have been a constant number that we've had for as long as I've been around the club, and you do need that. I mean, you've got your training nights, you need people to go down and open up the lock up, get all the gear out. You need people to drive to matches. You need people to wash the gear. There's tons of things that go on. From a secretary point of view, there's a lot of paperwork that has to be, sorted out early in the season and during the mid-season. You've got FEI.net now, which is a bit of a minefield in itself. Our chairman would be very, very much involved in the day-to-day run of the club. And then our treasurer, he's definitely one of the best in the business. He's the funding is very important, and he's really been great over the years, and he's 30 odd years down there now, by keeping the club's finances in check, and ensuring that we're never in a situation where we're vulnerable to being to run out funds. So there's always that fundraising aspect of it is very important as well. So we've got guys on the committee who are not afraid to go to local businesses and ask for help, and that's what you need. You need people who care about it and have passion and want to see the club succeed.
Yeah, it's always nice to have those sort of people behind you, Dave. It makes your life a hell of a lot easier, and it shares the burden, as you say. Like if there's 10 on the committee there, it does share the burden, as we mentioned earlier on. It's sort of a unseen by the players, if you want. There are a few that are aware of it, and others that either choose or maybe just choose to ignore it. I sometimes feel, but it's definitely what's needed. They don't realise the work that goes in behind the scenes, and it's I suppose it's just rewards for all the work that's been put in. Now they'll be able to go into a new facility and hopefully successful teams going forward for CY down in Ringsend, and that will make them feel all worthwhile. Yeah,
you're dead right. Like you definitely have two different types of players. You've got the player who realises, what people like myself and the lads do in the background, and you've got other players who just kind of, come and go and play their football, don't really take much interest in what's going on in the background. But yeah, it's really, really important. It goes without saying, and it's the same for every club. There's no club that's running right now that doesn't have a good committee in the background, because you wouldn't survive if you didn't have that. And for those clubs that don't survive, it's probably because, for whatever reason, people have lost interest. And if you don't have, like I mentioned earlier, you don't have the passion for it. Because for me, like when I'm in work on a Friday afternoon, I start switching off from work duties, and I'm thinking about the match that night. I'm thinking about the Saturday match the following day, and I'm excited, to go to the games and for what may happen, will we do well or whatever. And, you know, we've had a very barren period of time. We went through a period from about 2005 to I think 2014, where I think we won something like 15 different titles. You know, across we had 3 teams for a while, and we were runners up in 8 other competitions. We had quite, you know, I think we had a couple of years where we had one particular season where we had 3 cup finals. You know, our third team, second team, and fourth team were all in a cup final, and so we kind of hit a ceiling around 2014. We reached intermediate cup semi-final and we were beaten by UCD, and we haven't really done a whole lot since then. So the rewards that, you know, you get at the end of each season usually, or you're hoping, will be, you know, cup final or win the league. We haven't seen that for quite some time, but it hasn't dampened our enthusiasm to keep going, and hopefully those good times come around again. Like, you know, times like Leinster Senior Cup final in 2012, the Metro final in 2014. You know, we haven't had those kind of occasions over the last 5-6 years, but we keep going. We keep trying to grow the club and develop the club, and hopefully we'll see those better times, you know, come back to us over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I suppose leading into the next question from myself, Dave, is, you know, obviously you've Castro there in charge. Just it's a little bit too much to do maybe for a promotion this year, but obviously good foundations to build on for next year. It's by no means impossible, but I think you're a few points off the top 3 in Senior 1 at the moment. It would take enough to sort of claw back the difference. But again, as I said, it's not impossible. The lads won't be giving up on it. But how do you feel the season has kind of gone? Have you been happy enough with it, considering you know, you've come down from the senior division? Was it last year or the year before?
No, last year.
Last year, yeah. So obviously it's you know, it'd be very difficult to come straight back up. But yeah, you've obviously put a good footing in this season.
Yeah, well, we were relegated last season on the last night. If you remember, it was quite bizarre actually, because we would have been, we certainly wouldn't have been favourites at that stage on the night to go down. But the way the results went, I think you guys went down to Newbridge and got fairly heavily beaten by Newbridge, so they needed to make up a fairly significant goal difference to overtake us. They did, and Colester lost at home to Ballymun. We were beat by Crumlin. Crumlin were you know, trying to finish up their invincible season, and they beat us 5-3 on the night. And we went down. We went down in goal difference. It was weird. It was bizarre. It took a few weeks to get over it, but we did, and we sort of said, right, okay, you know, that's happened. We're now down in Senior 1. It's time to put some plans in place for next season. So we parted company with Adam during the summer. So David Cassidy had been Alan's assistant for the previous couple of years. Put himself forward to take on the role, and we have a guy called Daniel Lawler involved with the club. He's been with us for a couple of seasons, and they went out and started looking for players. We lost a few players because of the relegation. Obviously, just some of the guys felt that they wanted to still play in the senior division, and some of them went down to Liffey's, and one or two others went elsewhere. So we really had to rebuild. Because we had the core of our kind of local lads that, you know, probably wouldn't play anywhere else anyway, and we had to kind of build a side around them. We've got a really decent side together. We've been a bit inconsistent. We had a very poor defeat at home to Swords last Friday week, which was on the night. We had a really stormy night that night, and we didn't get to grips with the conditions, and Swords did, and they beat us, and that was a real blow to our promotion hopes, because if we had won that game, we would have went ahead of Kilnamanagh, and they would have had games in hand. But, you know, points on the board, we would have been into fourth place. And then, you know, because we'd beaten Home Farm in the previous game, so we've had good results against the sides that are, you know, are at the top, in the top 4. Like at the moment, it's looking like Sacred Heart they're going to win the league fairly handy. Lucan will probably finish second, so there's the third spot up for grabs between Kilnamanagh and the Home Farm, and maybe if we can get ourselves back into the running. They're playing Home Farm on Friday night up in Mulberry Road, so that's the big one for us. We'd really, if we don't win that match, you know, I think it'd be important for this season. But you never know. If we can put some sort of a run together, which we haven't done this season. We haven't won more than 2 games in a row this season, and so we have to do something that we haven't done yet this season in order to put ourselves in the contention. But I think, you know, it doesn't happen this year, and we have the foundations of a really good squad there, and the lads will be looking to add to that during the summer and have a real go at next season.
Good to hear.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the in the position you're in at the moment in fifth. It doesn't look like all hope is gone just yet. And by most team standards, like I know you've lost 6 this season. That's kind of what you would hope to lose over the full space of the season. But there's always hope there. I guess one of the other sides above you may go on a bad run as well, and you could go back into it. So I think what's been impressive this year from my perspective, Patsy White, there's always the danger when you get relegated from the top division, and you've seen it happen with other clubs before, that they go into free fall and start going down through the division. So I think it's nice to see that the ship is steadied somewhat, and you're still up the top end of the table competing, and not down.
Definitely, it was something we were very confident of during the summer. That can happen. It does happen. When we were coming up through the intermediate divisions ourselves, kind of at the end of around 2008, 2009, when we were climbing up from junior football, we seen other clubs kind of coming the other way, pass us by, if you like, and clubs that would have been, top sides in their day, like one really good example probably would be a club like Whitehall Rangers. They were top senior sides, 15, 20 years ago, and now I think they're playing in the third division of the AOL or something like that now at the moment, or they might only have a 35 team. So it can happen, and we were very conscious of that during the summer, and we made really huge efforts to galvanise everybody involved in the club and make sure that we weren't in that situation. And there were worrying times, when you see players leaving or not coming back for pre-season, you just wonder if it's going to go pear-shaped. But there's enough good people in the club to make sure that didn't happen. And like you mentioned, we mightn't happen for us this season. I don't think our form is probably good enough, has been good enough to get us up there. And the 3 sides that are probably going to be promoted, that'd be Hearts, Kilmarnock and Lucan, have been the 3 best sides in the league. So, at this moment in time, those 3 would deserve to go up. But things could change, yourself. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. Dave, look, we want to thank you for coming on the show tonight, and we do wish you the best of luck going forward this season and beyond, and best of luck with the new clubhouse, etc. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, lads. I'd just like to say, I really enjoyed listening to the podcast myself. I think it's been a great. The Leicester Senior League they're always very supportive of doing new kind of proactive things, and this is just another example of what they do. So fair play to the league for facilitating the podcast, and the 2 of you are doing a great job. So best of luck with your future.
Cheers, Dave. Thanks,
Dave.
See you lads. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Okay, that was Dave Nolan there from St. Patsy White. Obviously, a lot of good work going on down there, Andy. I think we spoke about this earlier ourselves. They seem to have a really strong committee structure in place down there. I think they've mentioned there's 18 lads on the committee in total, which I found to be phenomenal. I know out in Kilbarrack, we kind of, when you take in our schoolboy and senior section, I think we have about 7 on the committee. So it's, to be getting 18 lads onto a committee there shows a huge level of dedication.
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned it during the interview that it sort of shares the burden, and it's good that they do have volunteers there, because it is it's absolutely thankless task for anybody. I've done it now for 2 years with Bluebell, and I tell you, it's very hard. It's very hard to keep yourself motivated. It's very hard to keep going, and I know exactly what people go through in those roles, and I have to say fair play to them. They're getting everything in order down in Ringsend. They've got the new facilities coming on board. They've a new women's team there, which they've really pushed over the last few weeks on social media, and it's getting really, really good traction. So hopefully that's a club on the up in the Leinster Senior League. They were obviously in the top division for quite a while, and they were very successful in the past, so 15, 20 years or so. So hopefully they can return back up there and become a successful team again.
Definitely. I can't believe you forgot that it was you that got them sent down by losing.
Well, technically it wasn't us, but
I'm
yeah,
only joking. I'm only joking. No, it was a combination of results that night, obviously, but it was a strange way they went down last season, and I'm
yeah, it
sure
was.
it
It was
took
very unfortunate.
very unfortunate, and I think like Dave said, it would have took a while to get over, and but look, they seem to have put strong foundations in place to get back up. So we wish them the best of luck going forward this season. Moving on, we have actually news kind of just in. The draw for the Charlie Cattle Cup semi-finals was done this evening. So we have Ballymun United or St Moctus against Maynooth University Town, and then the other semi-final will be Colester Donecarney versus Glenville or Newbridge Town. So one of the flagship cups of the Leinster Senior League. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I know there's a few games to be played. I think they're earmarking those fixtures towards the end of March. So we'll see how that progresses. There was another big draw done this past week. I think we mentioned it on last week's show. The FAI Junior Cup quarter-final draw was done. And threw up some interesting draws for the Leinster Senior League sides. Rush Athletic facing a away trip down to Galway to face Athlone. You have Oliver Bond Celtic facing an even longer trip over to Westport United, and then Usher Celtic are at home to either Gorey Rangers or Castlebar Celtic. In the quarterfinals there, the other tie in the quarterfinals there is Killarney Celtic against Fairview Rangers, and then if the sides progress, the semi-final draw has also been done. So that would be Killarney or Fairview versus Athenry or Rush, and then Westport or Oliver Bond versus Usher Celtic or Gorey Rangers or Castlebar Celtic. So potentially a semi-final clash with the inner city sides, Oliver Bond Celtic and Usher Celtic there. I know a few people are hoping that would be the final, but if it does pan out and the both sides win, they will face each other in the semi-final. So potential huge tie there for the Leinster Senior League.
Not to rule anyone out there, but if that was the case, I think we'd have to make it our business to go along to watch that game. Usher on Oliver Bond. I see there's been a lot of sort of traction online about it already, so I can only imagine there'll be stadium at capacity, I would imagine, for that game.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a few people saying they'd need to hurry at Viva just for the semi-final there, with the amount of people who be going to that one, and it would be potentially a very interesting clash there. But look, they all have to get over the quarter-final hurdle first to see how that pans out. Right. Looking forward to this weekend, Andy, we have a few nice games to look forward to. Again, I'm going to emphasise these are just ones that we're kind of picking out from the fixtures. There may be a load more that we're missing out on here. And again, if you kind of, I always flag it up on a Monday on Twitter and ask people to kind of let us know on topics to discuss. But if you think your game is going to be a good one the coming weekend, maybe it's first versus second or a good promotion battle or relegation battle, do let us know and we'll feature those games on the podcast. So looking at Friday night, Andy, we looked at the Senior 1. There's a couple of games. We mentioned Kilnamanagh there on the back of those two losses in the Intermediate Cup and in the league, and they also face then League Slip United this Friday night, so they'll be looking to get back to winning ways. I believe League Slip are in 6th place at the moment. I need to just check the table for that though, but so that'll, they're looking to kind of, they're in 6th. They're looking to kind of keep pushing on and keeping up the pressure on the top, so it's Kilnamanagh really need to get back to winning ways to maintain their run towards the Senior 1 and the promotion chase. We also have, Dave mentioned on his interview there a moment ago, Pat CY are away to Home Farm this weekend. I think if Pat CY can win that game and put a run together, I know Dave was kind of saying that perhaps they may have let too many games go already this season, but if they win that one, it at least pegs Home Farm back a little bit and may give them a little bit of further hope. Obviously, Home Farm chasing the title there, so they'll be looking for a win.
Yeah, Yeah, I might have actually done him a bit of a disservice there. It was only afterwards I was having a proper look at the league, and if I was in the position of the Pat CY players, I don't think I'd be ruling anything out yet. As I've mentioned numerous times, there's plenty to play for in this division. There's loads of games to play. There's loads of games coming up, and teams will drop points. So, if they can put a bit of a run together, maybe sort of fortify their home games, you just don't know what will happen in these divisions. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. If like, particularly home farm, they can definitely kind of catch up on. But like it will be a battle for that toward the final spot if they're to get in. But if they did beat home farm, they still have 2 games in hand over home farm, but they would be how many points behind? Probably 6. Yeah, look, there's a lot of permutations there. I know. Some teams can go on a run towards the end of the season, and you've mentioned it before. Once those summer games start coming in, you're playing 2 or 3 games a week. A lot can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and then
moving on to Senior 1B, Hartstown Huntstown FC versus Ardmore Rovers, and St Kevin's Boys against Larkview. This is your sort of territory again.
Like
how are they fixed?
Yeah, Hartstown are kind of back in the mix again after putting together a few results. So they're up into 4th position at the moment. And like I mentioned, in this division, anything from second down to as far as 9th are really kind of battling for those 3 or 4 promotion spots. So it kind of creates a lot of interest in that division. Then you also have St. Kevin's versus Larkview. St. Kevin's really need to win those games in hand that they have over Kilbarrack United to go up, to move up the table. They've played a lot less games than everybody else, so they'll be looking to bounce back from their defeat last week. So definitely worth looking out for those 2 results this coming Friday. What about Saturday and the end to look forward to on Saturday?
Yeah, Derek, as you've mentioned already, there I'm sort of conscious that we've sort of focused a lot on our Sunday divisions, and what I am trying to do is I'm trying to incorporate the Saturday divisions. And what I would do is I'd say I'd encourage anyone, as you've mentioned already, reach out and touch base with us and say, look, there's a game coming up on a Saturday. I have to be honest with you, it's not my area of expertise, but if you touch base with us and you let us know, or if you even want to come on and have a discussion about the league or about your club, I would encourage you to reach out to us. And just some of the Saturday divisions that I've looked through this week, I've spotted there in Major 1B, Railway Union versus UCD. Railway are looking to put a bit of pressure on the teams above. Sheriff and Francis are both sitting at the top of 1B there at the moment. So a big game for Railway. If they can put another win in there, they'll be right in the hunt again for definitely promotion, if not a title chase, And then again in the Major 1A Saturday, Seaford Rock are welcoming Collinstown. So that's a 3rd versus 5th, and both teams are still in the hunt for promotion there as well. So 2 big games on a Saturday divisions. I'm sure there are plenty more. They're the 2 that sort of jumped out on the fixtures that we had a scan of today. But again, I'd encourage anyone to reach out to us and just kind of highlight the nature of the game to us, and we'll happily preview them on the podcast.
Sound. Looking forward to Sunday. Big quarter final in the Charlie Cattle Cup. Ballybun United are home to St. Moctus. You may recall, Andy, that in the league fixture, Ballybun against Moctus was a 0-0 draw. So Ballybun will be looking for a bit of an upset there. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Other big games in the senior Sunday then. Actually, probably the biggest game of the weekend. Bangor GG are at home to Malahide. That's 2nd versus 1st in the top division. That has the makings of a cracker, Andy. I'd actually love to get over to that. Unfortunately, we have a game on Sunday morning, so I won't be able to get to it. But I'd imagine you might get a big crowd to that one.
Yeah, I'd say so. Look, it's first versus second, so obviously, it's going to attract a lot of attention anyway. But 2 teams that have been doing really well, as we mentioned earlier on, Bangor on the back of 2 draws, will be looking to get back on a winning form. So they'll also be looking to knock Malahide out of their stride as well. They really need to be. They're really looking like they're kicking on a gear. So it's very interesting to see how this will go. It'll probably, I don't think it'll have too big of an outcome on the end result of the title, but it will definitely give one side some confidence going into the remainder of the game. So you just, as I said, it'll be a very good game, and I'm probably going to miss it myself, but unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the table there. If Bangor win, it puts them on 33 points, 1 point behind Malahide, but they'd have a game in hand. So massive game for them. They know it's kind of one that they need to win. So, I'm sure there'll be a lot of focus on that game on Sunday. Definitely worth the watch if you're looking to get out and catch a game Sunday morning. Hopefully, if we don't have another storm this weekend, because it seems to be over the last 4 weeks we've a new storm every week. So
I know.
yeah, so hopefully the weather improves this weekend. The other kind of big game that we earmark in the Senior Sunday is Wayside against Eden Derry. That's 7th versus 8th, and I'd be kind of reluctant to classify this as a relegation battle, but both sides on the kind of it's very bunched up the table, isn't it? Like, so both sides will know that they kind of need to keep on putting a bit of distance between themselves and those bottom three. So I'm sure a win be huge for either of those sides. Neither of them are going to be challenging for the title, but they need to kind of put a bit of breathing distance between themselves and the other side at the bottom of the table. So definitely one that will generate a bit of interest too. Then across in Senior 1B, Verona against Castleknock. Verona haven't had a game in weeks. They keep they've been scheduled for a lot of home games, and their pitch keeps on getting called off simply because of either storms or too much rain. So they've been quite unlucky lately. So it's also kind of a big West Dublin derby. So I'm hoping that goes ahead this Sunday. The Verona games generally get a good crowd out to them, so hopefully they get to have a game this weekend. I think they've only played 12 league games so far, which is kind of well behind the other sides in the division. And then another one kind of in the major one Sunday, Baldoyle United against St. Paul's Artane. Quite a big kind of north side derby there. And as far as I can recall, I just need to check the table on this one now, but the St. Paul's Artane had a fairly flawless record of 9 wins in a row, but lost their first game at the weekend. So I'm just going to, they lost to Balbriggan 3-2 at the weekend, so they'd won every game up to that point. So they're top of the table, and they face 4th place Baldoyle on Sunday. So again, that one will draw a big crowd there. Was there any other ones to look out for, or is that it, Andy?
I think that's us, Derek. Yeah, I think that's us.
Yeah, sound. The last thing we were going to touch on tonight's podcast was obviously we kind of generated this new feature called Listeners Corner. I suppose we have about 7 or 8 minutes before we want to wrap up on the hour mark. So I know you ran a poll this week, Andy. I'll let you actually talk about it. So you can do an introduction on that.
Yeah, I forget the origin of my thought process behind this one, Derek.
Thinking about retirement, Andy, probably.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. I was probably thinking about it after the game on Friday, after throwing one in. But, so the question to the Twitter people, what's the plan after or for retirement? And the three
Twitter
options
people.
were,
I like that. The Twitter people.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the sort of audience I was there for, but so we got 108 votes, which is not bad, and 30% were saying they'd be going into management, 31% would be going into coaching, and 39% will be going into enjoying their retirement. So,
were you surprised by that?
Yes and no. I was actually surprised at the low number of people that would be going into retirement, and I was surprised at the high number that would be looking to go into management.
Yeah.
So I thought coaching would have been more. I thought that would have been a greater number, if I'm being honest with you. I thought enjoying retirement, I was expecting that to be a little bit higher again, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because I think I mentioned it earlier on in one of my tweets. The commitment in the game, especially at amateur level, is dying by the minute. By players, by volunteers, by just across the leagues now.
You know what, actually, I would have liked to see on that, Andy, and it's a pity because it kind of leads into our next topic. It would have been good to see, did anybody, for a retirement, want to go on to committee level? So it would have been an interesting one to put that up there and see if anybody had plans to move into committee level after they hung up the
Yeah,
boots.
because you don't really see it, Eric, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like what I'm seeing is players are retired much earlier. Um, their commitment levels aren't there. They're just not what they used to be. I actually got a message off a player who has played in the top division and has probably won everything in the game, and he actually said to me about the commitment levels across the board is just shocking. Lads making excuses, all sorts of excuses why they're not training. Why they can't do this, why they can't do that. I just remembered I like I, I can only really it's a hard one because I think we mentioned it previously. Whereas it is an amateur game. It's a hobby at the end of the day. So you give in sort of as much as you can. But I think if you are going to commit to something, you have to commit to it for the season, or you have to give some level of commitment. You can't be just flying in and out as you please, I suppose. I just think that's unfair for everybody. And if that's the agreement that you have, then that's fine. And if that suits everybody, that's fine. But I think if you have a key player or a key person across the board in that club that kind of comes in and out when it suits them, I just don't think it's a healthy environment to be in. And it's just getting worse, in my opinion. I've seen it go from 10 plus years ago in our Bluebell side. You got hammered if you missed a training session. I could count on one hand the first 5 or 6 seasons how many times a certain individual would miss training. And now I think on average players are probably training 4 or 5 times a month. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that's probably been generous. So it's definitely changing. I don't know what the landscape is going to look like in 10 years' time, to be honest with you, when so much more has developed in the game. Social media has probably then developed even further. There'll be different distractions, if you want to call it. I honestly fear for that side of the game. It's something that I suppose probably we could have a separate conversation on a different podcast about. But yeah, it's a strange one. I don't know whether if you see it at your club, Derek, or if other listeners can maybe come in and voice their opinions or whatever they've seen, But I just that's my own level of opinion on that one.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you in the sense that if you're gonna commit to something, you kind of need to commit to it. And if you don't want to commit to a high level of football, then go play with a kind of a lower level team, play kind of in a lower division. But I think especially when you're playing in the top divisions and you're competing in some of the top divisions, you need to commit to that. If you're just looking for kind of a hobby and play a bit of ball and train once a week, then play at a lower level. That's fine. Like if that's the only level of commitment that you can give. But I think when you are, although it's only amateur football, when you're playing in the top divisions of amateur football, there does have to be a bigger level of commitment there. At the end of the day, it's intermediate football. Like it's not a kick around the park with your mates. It is kind of a serious level of amateur football. So I think there has to be that level of commitment there.
And I'm not knocking anyone. Or that's a personal choice. Like everybody does it for their own reasons and whatnot, and they have their own level. Like they could have, they have a bit of pressure on from a home with the kids or whatever it may be. Like that's fine. I've absolutely no problem. But I just think, as you mentioned, I think if you're playing in the top divisions of what I would consider the best amateur league in the country, there has to be a minimum requirement. There has to be a minimum commitment level expected from the group of players and the managers and the committee and whoever else is involved in that club. I just think if you can't give it, you can't give it. And as you say, go and have a kick about with your mates that might only want to train once a week or go out and play on a Saturday or a Sunday down the lower divisions. That's fine. It's each to their own. And I just want to make that clear. I'm not knocking anybody for doing it, but I just think if you make a commitment to a club, just try and stick to it. You know?
Agreed. Andy, I know we wanted to talk about the work done by committees as well this evening, but I know we also agreed before that we'd stick to the kind of hour timeline, and we're just pushing on that now. So I suggest we kind of maybe look at that next week. We'll look at some of the work done by committees and the challenges running a football club, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, there's, as I said, I think I mentioned it last week, Derek. There's been a number of suggestions sent in to us on the new sort of segment of the podcast listeners corner. So thanks very much for everybody sending in their suggestions. We will compile them over the season, and we will eventually get to them. But I suppose depending on the agenda and the week that's in it, we'll just try and tick off as many as we can as they come up.
Definitely. Just a couple of last mentions before we finish up. Kilnamana are doing a fundraiser. I think it's still a couple of months away in June, but it's an I'm a Celebrity Get Me Out of Here fundraiser. So it's intended to go towards improving the facilities at the club. I know that a few of the players are raising money for that. So keep an eye out for it. I know if you check out their Twitter page, you can definitely see some of the lads using GoFundMe pages to raise money for that. Also, if you're at a game, use the LSL live score hashtag. It's really important, keeps us updated, makes it easier for us to find out goal scorers and know what's going on in each of the divisions. And then, have you anything to add to that, Andy?
Yeah, just to follow on from the hashtag, Derek, I was thinking of an additional segment to the podcast, maybe, or even to just go out on Twitter. A team, a player, or a club of the month, or of the week, and we can mention them on the podcast, and we can give them a mention. So the sort of caveat for that I'd be looking to do is you have to use the live score hashtag. So I know I've been guilty of neglecting it in the past. So if you can use the hashtag to highlight any goals to us, any players that have, may have scored a hat-trick or whatever they've done in that week, or if a club has picked up a big victory that week over their rivals, or if they're on a promotion push, or they might have pushed themselves out of the relegation zone, just hashtag it and tag myself or Derek, and we'll give you a mention the following week if we feel it's worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of our kind of biggest fans, Derek Doc O'Connor, mentioned that perhaps we could run a segment on goal of the week as well, with the amount of teams videoing their matches. So I know there was some crackers this week to choose from. We probably didn't put enough time in to pick out a winner on that one, but definitely have a look at Usher Celtic are doing great work with videos. Kilbarrack United, obviously, St. Kevin's. Who else are videoing games at the moment? St. Moctus have videos up there all the time. I'm sure there's loads I'm forgetting about at the moment, but there's some great content on there, and always some really good goals. So if you see a really good goal, flag it to us, and we'll try and mention it on the podcast each week. Right, Andy, that's great. We've probably gone over time there, so as always, it's a pleasure speaking to you. Look forward to connecting again next week, and best of luck for your own game this coming week as well.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Same to yourself, and see you next week.
Cheers.